World War I vet turned mob enforcer Hugh Miller has fallen head over heels in love with another gangster, Tammy Trucco. Tragically, the next firefight my crew gets into, Tammy eats a bullet. Boom. Dead. Reeling from that and a recent demotion, Hugh has had enough. He quits my gang in a huff. It's a dramatic moment that underscores what Empire of Sin does best, which are the well-written, complex personal relationships that develop between your soldiers and make this management and tactical strategy game interesting. But then Hugh immediately turns around and accepts a rehire offer, completely undermining the gravity of those events. It's a great example of how Empire of Sin's technical ricketiness gets in the way of just about everything it attempts to do well. The task of building a criminal empire by pumping out illegal booze and gunning down the competition is an ambitious and complex mix of genres with a cool setting. And for what it's worth, Empire of Sin's Chicago streets and soundtrack really embrace the roaring 20s style. There's even delightfully over-the-top voice acting for nearly every character, littered with standout performances like gangster boss Frankie Donovan.
I'm gonna break your face in!
The writing and weird cast of characters have a lot of charm. The challenge here is to run a complex, illegal empire while also balancing the chaotic personalities of criminals, both in your gang and outside it. Like many of Empire of Sin's ideas, it's a brilliant concept. In between interacting with its fun characters, you have to keep a team of violent, hired guns with poor impulse control happy and alive in turn-based tactical RPG combat in the vein of XCOM. The tactical battles are built on good bones. There's a well-balanced hit point and equipment system with just enough randomness to make the weapon stats and upgraded rarities really matter. There's also a half or full cover system you'll recognize from every tactics game since 2012. Well implemented here, with angle of attack and distance mattering depending on what weapon you're using. It works, aside from a few balance issues like unavoidable dynamite attacks. Problem is, the fights quickly become rote due to mindlessly repetitive maps and poor, buggy combat AI. You move from place to place and attack, fight the same 3 or 4 guards on the same 3 or 4 maps, then take over the building. The maps are pretty at least, thanks to locations like dim speakeasy interiors and luxurious gambling houses, but they're choke-pointed, poorly laid out, and offer very little tactical variety. The terrain is static as well. There's no destruction, and it's an honest crime that you can't vault over the bar into cover like in every gangster movie ever. All of that goes on as you build up your network of illegal breweries, casinos, speakeasies, and brothels to get rich on the management side. The way it's all executed, though, makes it little more than surface-level fun with no balance or depth. Alcohol out, money in. But you never make enough money to really feel like Scarface, because the economics are so poorly balanced that amassing any large amount of cash is really only possible once you've already built an empire. Of course, the economy rarely matters, because the dominance of some strategies over others undermines what should otherwise be a wide-open sandbox strategy game. You can, in theory, play many ways, such as diplomatically catering to allies and placating opponents as you build up your empire, but those are never the best idea. Waging a full-scale gang war is expensive, and why would you wait for your cash reserves to build? And I mean literally wait, since the management layer is real-time and has a single speed, when you can just drive over to the other boss's house and shoot them in the face. So you declare war. Use a car to teleport to the front door of the enemy's safe house and assault it, bypassing any defense their armies of soldiers would have provided. These missions aren't easy, but they're not that tough either. Once you've got a grip on the mechanics, the only thing that'll hold you back is bugs and a few wildly unbalanced abilities. Oh, and the police, they're a joke. I never saw them try to stop me outside of scripted mission events, even when I went out of my way to provoke a response. For this review, I played 4 Empire of Sin campaigns. 2 were fine enough, even enjoyable at times, but the management and diplomacy is boring in all scenarios thanks to an extremely clunky interface for upgrading buildings. Of those, the shorter campaign on a smaller map was the most fun. On the larger maps, after I got strong enough, I basically ran all of Chicago, but cleaning up was mostly just a slog to the finish. Those were the good runs. The other two were stopped within 5 hours by a different game-breaking bug. 50% of games being done in by bugs is not a great ratio, and all 4 were plagued with minor bugs like broken quests, disappearing units, and bonuses that seemed to do nothing. It's a shame, because the glimmers of a great game are here. I keep thinking about how amazing it could be if the network of thugs for hire in your black book had a solid foundation under them. They all have morale and loyalty scores, their own specific background traits, personalities, and relationships to the other gangsters. It's the first game to implement this system so well since Jagged Alliance 2, but everything else is a mess right now. All the good ideas and strong 1920s atmosphere in Empire of Sin amount to nothing in the end. The tactical combat has strong bones and some clever design, but fails to live up to its promise due to repetitive, lackluster maps and wildly unbalanced abilities. The strategy layer is shallow, and the many ways to roleplay feel meaningless, when there is a clear, easiest path to victory and the rest are so tedious. The criminal enterprise management is poorly balanced and slow due to a combination of game speed and bad interface. Top it all off with bugs, glitches, and janky performance issues too numerous to mention, and you have a game that's just not worth your time unless it gets a major overhaul. For more turn-based tactics, check out our reviews of Baldur's Gate 3's early access version, plus Gears Tactics and XCOM Chimera Squad. And for everything else, stick with IGN.